Well, hi there, warm welcome. You're watching Decoding Now, and I'm Meghna Deka. Well, tonight the world is asking, are we witnessing the largest ever diplomatic maneuvers globally to end the Iran war? Why do we ask that? Well, US President Donald Trump is in China, meeting President Xi Jinping. Iranian Foreign Minister Arakchi is in Delhi. He's meeting the foreign ministers of India, Russia, China and others. And Prime Minister Modi is headed to the UAE tomorrow to deepen strategic ties. Is this all a mere coincidence? Every nation has been impacted by the Iran war and blocking of Hormuz. All supply lines have been disrupted and diplomacy has made little headway in reaching a lasting end to the war. So tonight we are decoding. Can Trump and Xi stop the war? Will there be a deal or no deal? Well, President Trump is in China to meet President Xi Jinping. What we are going to decode for you tonight is why. Why is he there and why now? Well, it all comes down to 4 T's: Tehran, trade, technology, and Taiwan. We are going to tell you here on Decoding Now how all of them are connected. This meeting was to happen in late March, but got delayed due to the war in Iran. Trump will be using this opportunity to pressurize China to bring its alliance partner, Iran, to the negotiating table and try and end the war. And then, of course, there's trade. What's going to be the big trade-off? Well, we are going to tell you how Trump came to Beijing with CEOs, a crew of CEOs who are together worth $16.4 trillion. Yes, you heard that right. $16.4 trillion. That's roughly 82% of China's total GDP. Well, US wants China to buy more American products, and it's likely that President Xi will say yes to products like soya beans and American beef. In return, China will want to access more high-end computer chips, which so far, remember, has been restricted by the United States. And then there is Taiwan, the 4th T. China wants Trump to stop selling arms to the self-governing island, which Beijing claims is its own. This has been a flashpoint for the two sides for many, many years now. It's unlikely that all these problems are likely to be decided in 2 short days, but it will reset the equation between the two superpowers in the years to come. Which is why tonight on Decoding Now, we are going to ask, is this one of the biggest global pushes which have been made towards peace? Well, Trump's high-stakes meeting with Xi Jinping, that is in the center of this diplomatic maneuvering. It has unfolded under the shadow of the Iran war, with oil security, regional stability, the risk of wider conflict dominating the conversation. The biggest takeaways? Well, let's tell you. What happened when Xi and Trump met? Well, the first takeaway, both of them agreed that Hormuz must stay open. Xi Jinping has specifically said that China opposes the militarization of Hormuz, the weaponization of the Strait of Hormuz. Also, Xi Jinping says that he opposes any effort to charge a toll in reference to what Iran has been doing. Also, both Xi Jinping and President Trump have agreed that there should be no nuclear weapons for Iran. And finally, and this is an interesting one because we are discussing the trade-off as well, China is willing to buy more oil from the US, which is going to help it wean away from the West Asian oil suppliers to make it more independent of whatever fluctuations may happen in West Asia as a region. But it's not just the Iran war which is casting a shadow over the summit. Another major geopolitical flashpoint has taken center stage: Taiwan. We are talking about the tit for tat, the trade-off. Here it comes. Well, Xi Jinping had some very strong words to say on the issue. Let's tell you exactly what he said. He said that Taiwan is most critical issue in our ties. If you, which is US, mishandle Taiwan, conflict is possible. This is an open warning coming out from Xi Jinping to President Trump. He's also said, after all, confrontation only leads to losses. This many people have interpreted as mocking America for the losses that it has faced in the West Asia war. But remember, Donald Trump didn't just arrive in Beijing alone. He was accompanied by a powerful roster of American business tycoons, many of them with major stakes in how this bilateral relationship will be unfolding. So here's presenting the third T, which is trade. Let's tell you about Trump's CEO crew. You have Elon Musk. He's the CEO of Tesla, of X. He is worth $828 billion. Then there is Tim Cook of Apple. He is worth $2.9 billion. Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, worth $1.3 billion. There's Stephen Schwarzman. He is the CEO of Blackstone. He's worth $56 billion. There's, of course, Jensen Huang, very significant because China has aspirations to get high-tech chips from US. He is the CEO of NVIDIA. His net worth is $190 million. There's Kelly Ortenberg, the CEO of Boeing. She's worth $25 to $50 million, somewhere in between. Of course, there are several others, like the CEO of Citi, Jane Fraser, worth $35 to somewhere around $50 million. You, of course, have the likes of David Solomon, the CEO of Goldman Sachs, worth $200 million. This is the team which has descended in Beijing. So let me go across to Anil Pandey. He's joining us live from Beijing with the very latest on what is happening around there. We've seen the state banquet taking place, Anil. Before that, of course, were the bilaterals. The big question, deal or no deal when it comes to the Iran war?
Well, stakes are high. As we know, back home, Donald Trump has been surrounded or by people. I mean, people are not happy. So he landed in Beijing last night, almost 24 hours back. But yesterday we saw the warm welcome, but today we found the things were not that like yesterday, although the state banquet happened, but the kind of statement given by China or the treatment by Chinese president, especially on the issue of Taiwan, she hails like U.S.-China relations as we understood, world's most consequential election, consequential relations, but warned Trump on the Taiwan issue. So definitely there is a stake high if we talk about the China-Taiwan issue. But if you are thinking related with the Iran war or West Asia crisis, so this is a big make or break situation for Donald Trump. As we understand, he has been, in the following Israel for a long time, and people are not happy. And as we know, his popularity has gone down drastically. So he wants something positive out of this trip, this visit. So probably right now when we see he is in Beijing and his body language shows he's kind of not that aggressive Trump, what we often see him when he often visits other countries, and even he treats other counterparts very differently. But with the Xi Jinping,
you're right. Anil is making a very important, significant expression of what exactly it is that Donald Trump's body language tells us. Remember, he said that Xi Jinping is his friend and says all he wants is a big giant hug. Those are kind of words which are coming out from Donald Trump. Thank you so much, Anil Pandey. We are going to keep coming back to you for more updates live from Beijing. It's a 2-day visit, but can it set the tone for the next 3 years? That's the question. But let's also get you some context here. Let's put some of the numbers to the CEOs. As we are discussing, it's deal or no deal, and that's what we are all going to be interested in, because at the end of it, there is money in the bottom line. The scale of wealth of the CEOs that I was telling you about who've traveled to Beijing alongside Trump is absolutely staggering, which is what may sway the ways. Let me tell you what. The combined worth of these CEOs who are there in Beijing along with Trump is $16.47 trillion, which is 82% of China's entire GDP last year. This net worth is 4 times bigger than Germany's entire GDP last year. The NVIDIA and Apple value that itself outvalues Japan and UK's combined GDP. Only US and China are valued above the CEOs. The GDPs of the two nations, which is above the valued combined worth of these CEOs, is US and China. Of course, these CEOs aren't in Beijing just for the optics. Each has a very clear business agenda with ambitions to secure support, access, or even stronger footing in the Chinese market. Let's look at Tesla. Tesla is batting for a Shanghai gigafactory's expansion. Apple, what does it want? It wants trade policy clarity and regulatory stability. NVIDIA, green light to sell H200 AI chips in China, something that China and Xi Jinping are very keen about. Also, what does Boeing want? Boeing wants jet orders and aerospace sales into China. BlackRock, Citigroup, what do they want? They want broader banking access and cross-border operations with China. And then there is Elon Musk. Well, perhaps the most visible, enthusiastically also, very visibly enthusiastic member of Trump's CEO crew in Beijing. You can see this viral clip on your screen showing Elon Musk filming just about everything around him, soaking in the moment like an excited child, as many have called him on social media, his social media, which is X, on a school trip. You can see him there with the phone out, capturing all the scenes, looking less like the world's richest man, more like a tourist ticking off a bucket list. But after all, who blames us? This is Beijing, once in a lifetime opportunity, once in 9 years when President Trump himself has visited. The optics behind this visit is huge. What does it really mean? Let me put that across to our panelists. Joining us today, Lieutenant General S.L. Narasimhan, who is the member of the National Security Advisory Board and also the Director General at the Center for Contemporary China Studies. Also joining us on the show, Richard Painter. He's a professor of law at the University of Minnesota and former chief of White House ethics lawyer for the then President George W. Bush. So, Professor Painter, I'm going to be coming across to you. Do you think that significant headway has been made between Xi and President Trump in this meeting? After all, everyone wants to know, can they, or rather, can Trump ask Xi to put in a word, push Tehran towards the negotiating table?
Well, it's too early to tell. Obviously, China wants the United States to back down on Taiwan and Taiwan's claim to independence from China in exchange for support of the United States in the Middle East with Iran and elsewhere. Obviously, China needs the oil out of the Strait of Hormuz, so it's important that the Middle East war be resolved. But the question is what price China is going to insist upon in exchange for any support they might give. At this point, they appear to be supporting Iran and indeed may be providing weaponry to Iran. So it's a very challenging situation. It's too early to tell how this is going to play out.
In that case, General Narasimhan, do you think Taiwan is going to be the trump card for Xi? Because he said that's a red light they are not willing to cross.
Thank you very much for getting me on your show. I was a former member of the NSAB and former Director General of CCCS. That's the correction I wanted to give you.
Sorry,
but notwithstanding that, the Taiwan issue would have been definitely discussed. But if you look at the White House's reaction after the bilateral meeting, it only said that the meeting has been good.
Yes.
It didn't make a mention of Taiwan. It didn't make a mention of anything else. So that gives me an indication that there have been subdued kind of a reaction to the bilateral meeting. That is point number one. Point number two, on Taiwan, basically what President Trump was wanting to discuss with Xi Jinping was on the supply of weapons to Taiwan, whether Beijing will have a say in it or otherwise.
Right.
So I have a feeling that if it has been discussed, then Beijing would have been very strong in saying that you should not supply weapons to Taiwan, obviously. So that is a thing that we'll have to wait and watch. I'll be waiting and watching very keenly the joint statement that comes out after the visit is over. That is the one which will tell us exactly as to what transpired between the two. There also you have to read between the lines, but that is the thing that will tell us exactly as to what happened in this bilateral meeting. My own understanding, your 4 T's are right. Your 4 T's are the ones I think they were on the table for discussion. And in addition to that, the durability of truce in the Strait of Hormuz, was also is a matter of concern. And the issue is that my personal feeling is China would have limited capability to tell Iran to wind up the nuclear capability, to open up Hormuz, etc. Because Iran is fighting with its back to the wall. So they are fighting for the survival. Obviously, they are going to fight with all they've got. Until the time the bilateral discussions take place and there is some understanding that is arrived, this is going to be a question which is open.
In fact, Professor Painter, let me take that across. Do you think you can hyphenate the two, the larger Iran conflict and what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz? Because it's interesting. In the Chinese handout, the statement which came out, it says that both of them agreed that Hormuz must stay open. And even Xi Jinping has opposed the weaponization of the Strait of Hormuz, saying that there cannot be any effort to charge a toll. Do you think there may have been middle ground on Hormuz, perhaps not on the larger issue of the theater of war?
Well, I think if we could persuade China to support us on insisting that the Strait of Hormuz be open, that would be an enormous accomplishment.
Absolutely.
It would help put a lot of pressure on Iran to do that. But China also wants us to back down on supplying weaponry to Taiwan. So we're going to have to see what comes of that. The difficulty is that China realizes that the United States is extended and perhaps overextended militarily in many places all over the world. We've been involved in the Middle East now yet again in another war. We have the situation where we're supplying weapons to Ukraine against Russia. And then we also want to be a power, regional power in Asia. And there's only so much the United States can accomplish, even with a $1 trillion defense budget. And so the United States does need partners around the world. And at this point, at least in the war with Iran, we don't have any partners at all. Who are certainly willing to go to war with us, except for Israel, which is a very controversial situation there. So that China realizes we're a bit overextended here, and they may think they've got the cards in the negotiations over the Strait of Hormuz or anything else. Now, then again, they're a lot more dependent on the oil from the Strait of Hormuz than the United States, so it's in their interest.
I was about to say that China really needs Iran on its side if it has to pick sides. Officially, it may or may not, but at the end of it, it needs the oil, and that is coming for Iran. In that sense, let me also look at the larger scale that we've seen of diplomacy, which is suddenly happening. We see these huddles. General Narasimhan, I'm going to come to you. On one hand, you have Trump and Xi meeting. You have Prime Minister Modi, who's going to be headed to the UAE. You have Arakchi and some of the biggest foreign ministers of countries which have been impacted by war in Delhi, all of them meeting. What's happening? What's cooking?
One thing that is happening is the BRICS meeting was already scheduled before Mr. Trump's visit to Beijing was finalized.
And this meeting of Trump and Xi has been postponed from earlier March.
Yeah, earlier it was supposed to take place in the end of March, first week of April, and it has got postponed. And so obviously this wouldn't have been postponed. There are too many foreign ministers involved in this. That is one. And therefore they went ahead with it. That is something which we can understand. Prime Minister is also not only going to UAE. He is also going to Nordic. He's going to 5 countries, including the Nordic countries in Europe. So it is a larger reach that we are trying to do. And Nordic countries, you please understand, they're very strong on AI. So we are looking at AI and other development. Obviously, we'll also be looking at support for AI from those countries which are actually very strong on artificial intelligence. So that is something that we can keep in mind. As far as UAE is concerned, we are going to actually, my own reading, I don't know exactly what will be discussed, but my own reading is that there are 2 things. One is your oil and gas, which comes from UAE, which is the second largest producer in the West Asian countries. And the second is, of course, the security of our diaspora, which is approximately about 4 million in US. So that is something, both things I'm sure will be discussed. And of course, we already have certain amount of defense cooperation and other agreements with the UAE.
Yes.
And that will get further strengthened. And UAE is one of our...
So this is interesting. So we've had all of these mechanisms which are put in place, these huddles which are happening in the midst of the shadow of the Iran war. What's expected? We'll have to wait and see. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. General Narasimhan as well as Professor Painter, thank you so much. I appreciate you putting all of this into perspective.